Hi, I'm Dr. Duke, and this is Campus Roundup, a partnership between the College Fix and Freedom Project Media. Our top story this week focuses on the growing epidemic of campus hate crime hoaxes. For more on that, I want to welcome Amanda Tidwell, an economics student at The Ohio State University and a journalist for the College Fix. Amanda, you've written a great article, Roundup, the year in review, 17 campus hate crimes that turned out to be hoaxes in 2017. Amanda, tell us a little bit about what made you interested in this story. It gave you the idea to do it. And was it a compelling story as you were putting it together?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically here at the College Fix, what we do is we round up, hoax stories throughout the year. And then by the end that the year wraps up, we kind of go in and review all of these hoaxes and do a compilation of all of these stories and kind of a short summary of them. And I have to say that it was quite surprising that we found 17 just alone on our site. And now that's just not limited to our site. There are lots of other sites that do this as well. And a lot of university stories that were not even in our compilation, but I was pretty surprised. And not only that, but I saw a lot of hoaxes come from high school as well. So that's a trend that we're seeing now too.
I noticed that. I mean, this is not just, we know a lot about the university campus hoax situation. Why do you think more hoaxes are happening generally? And specifically, why is this bleeding down now to high schools?
Sure, absolutely. So like you said, we all know that, higher education and, colleges typically are pretty liberal. But I think that we also don't think that, the public education system isn't liberal as well, where, when I was growing up in the public school system, I surely experienced a lot of, liberal teachers and didn't really realize it until I was in college that, they were pushing, a leftist agenda. And so I think it's just becoming more apparent, and especially with the election of Donald Trump, they feel probably more to combat hate and teach, these young children that that he is not a good president.
Well, one of the things that's always blown me away a little bit is it seems like we've come so far along racial and these kinds of inclusive lines that the campus left, the academic left, has actually had to invent microaggressions. I mean, there aren't enough macroaggressions. There aren't enough of these kind of big hate incidences going on college campuses anymore, or high school campuses as well. And so the university has kind of invited all of these micro ways to offend people, and yet you still find these kids who are making up these grand narratives, right? It's in a way, you could kind of make the argument, couldn't you, Amanda, that some of these hoaxes, many of these hoaxes, are going for the big hit, right? Nooses hanging, white sheets, the Ku Klux Klan, all of that stuff. It's almost as if there's not enough real racism on hatred in college campuses. And so it kind of has to be manufactured to keep stoking the fire. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. And see, we kind of ask the question, well, why don't we see this on the right? We don't have to make it up. UC Berkeley is burning. Baltimore was burnt to the ground. So, when we come from a conservative perspective, these things are actually happening. And like you said, and, it was kind of the narrative that with Donald Trump as president, then we would see all hate crimes on campuses. And the fact of the matter is that we simply were not. And so we had, like you said, that they have to manufacture these stories in order to, it reinforced their false narrative. And a lot of the times these crimes these hoaxes are perpetrated by people, by African Americans or by Muslims. And so that's kind of surprising as well.
Well, that's exactly right. Every story you reported on comes from the left, right? Progressive kids of different races and religions coming together to falsify these claims to try to get attention. And that's it. You said, why don't we see this from Republican or conservative or Christian kids? And I think one of the main reasons is that the university doesn't take them all that seriously. If you're a Caucasian kid that claims that your African-American studies professor is kind of bullying you on the basis of your race, no one's going to take you that seriously. But for these liberal kids, the university pretty much grinds to a halt. One of the things that blew me away is how dramatically the universities responded to these hoaxes. Everything was shut down. You get these huge statements of inclusivity, these grand condemnations. But after the hoaxes were proven to be hoaxes, nothing happens. The students aren't punished. There's not much that happened. One of the articles you wrote about, I believe it was a University of Kansas hate crime hoax, the police decided it was not in the best interests of the community to punish the hoaxer. And so when you have a situation, Amanda, where these kinds of liberal hoaxes generate all of this attention, generate change, generate protest, but conservative protests generate next to nothing, are we at the least bit surprised that you're seeing more of it?
Not really. And like you said, a lot of times the hoaxers are protected. And I think that should be rule number one, is that these hoaxers should be publicly named. There's no legitimate reason to protect their identities. They're not going to be, no one's going to attack them or go after them because they made something up. But I think that, harsher punishment for these people that are lying to the police and to the university is absolutely necessary, because if there's no punishment, then why it's not going to stop.
And so to protect progressive kids from the tiniest, the subatomic microaggression, we're willing to accuse entire genders and entire races, entire campuses of really gross hate crimes. And when they're proven to be false, we really do nothing to rectify the falsity of this. It really is an unfair system that unduly puts pressure on certain kind of kids at the expense of others.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, was there, of all those 17 stories, one more goofy than the next? Was there one that stands out in your mind as particularly egregious or as particularly shocking in the way that it went down?
Yeah, so I think the one from the San Diego University story, we reported it in January. It occurred in November after Donald Trump was elected as president. And she accused that two men attacked her and took her hijab off and stole her car. And as it turned out, she'd forgotten where her car had parked, and nobody attacked her. So I think that, that is such, especially that was after President Trump announced the travel ban as well. So tensions were extremely high. And that's just such a huge thing to make up in order to, like we said, reinforce this narrative that these hate crimes are rising on campus, and she wasn't punished for it as well. So, kind of what's the incentive for people to stop lying on campus? There is none whatsoever.
Well, and if I recall correctly from your story, that particular individual, after it was proven that she had faked this, she said that she, rather than apologize, she declined to prosecute or push charges, right? After it was proven that her story was a hoax, she, rather than apologize, simply said, well, I won't prosecute now. It was really remarkable when you think about it. Amanda Tidwell, student at The Ohio State University of Economics, journalist for The College Fix, thank you for your time, and OH.
IO. Thank you so much.